Good morning readers, it's Tilly here from Tilly's Shelf and welcome to another bookish breakfast at bedtime. So I'm on nights again. I did one night last night and I'm going to do another night tonight, and I'm going to bed just as soon as I finish talking to you about part 2 of the Laxdæla saga. So I'm doing this as part of Saga, an event which I am theoretically co-hosting with a whole range of lovely people who I will link in the description box below. And the idea was that we did one video last weekend about the first half of the Laxdæla saga and one video this weekend that's just gone by about the second half of the Laxdæla saga. You may have noticed that it is no longer the weekend, and it has taken me until today to finish a relatively short work of literature. So yeah, I don't think anyone's going to be inviting me to co-host any events anytime soon because I'm not very good at it. So last week on Saga, we talked about shipwrecks, and there are definitely shipwrecks in the second half of the Laxdæla saga, but instead I wanted to talk a little bit more about the reading experience. So I think one theme that I've noticed in our videos that all of the co-hosts have made is that we've all wanted at some point or another to compare the Saga of the People of Laxardal to a more recognisable, familiar work of more modern literature, or sometimes not. I think somebody has definitely compared it to the sort of the Iliad and Trojan War sagas, which would in fact be older. But yeah, we've all wanted to compare the stories that we found here to something a bit more familiar. And I just wanted to say briefly, because I'm going to go to bed, that for me, the reading experience of the Saga of the People of Laxardal is most similar to reading Wuthering Heights. And I just wanted to, I've written just a quick list of the reasons why the reading experience is the same, and the central theme of all of that is it's confusing. The Saga of the People of Laxardal is a brilliant work of literature, but it is confusing, and there are many, many strands as to why that is, all of which are broadly speaking comparable to Wuthering Heights. The first is that it's just old. So it's a classic. Obviously, Laxardal is quite a lot older than Wuthering Heights by quite some way. But the way that we tell stories has changed, and we wouldn't, as a modern author, you wouldn't handle the same themes in the same style. There are bits that you would leave out, such as the long lists of, like at the end there's a whole like paragraph that's just, oh, these people all got married, and it just kind of like ties off all of the little families and like, oh, they all lived happily ever until they were murdered, essentially, in Iceland. But the way that we structure our narratives has changed dramatically over the last even the last like 100 years or so. The second part of why it's confusing is that there's a lot of kind of like, not so much local dialect in Laxardal, but local custom and local belief and like local ways of handling things, and we kind of think, is this like a particular narrative significance, or is this just the way that people do things there? Is this just the custom that you like entice young boys out and kill them through sorcery, or is that, how significant is this? I'm going to go with that specific event. I'm going to go with relatively significant. But yeah, there's things that you think, how weird is this in the context of the world that it's set in? The third aspect is that it is a massive intergenerational story where themes are played out across eras. And things like crop up time and again, and the characters, for some reason, all have the same names, or like different variations on the same names, playing out across the generations. And yeah, that is another thing that there is no denying. It makes it confusing, and you need a very good map of characters and family tree, and the family tree that is provided in my copy, which I'm trying to find, and I can't. So bad, you can't even find it. It's just not very good. It just doesn't have the amount of detail that you need. But to have the family ties, the family tree that you need, that is in enough detail, you would need probably another book to be referring back to. So intergenerational stories about people with very similar names, that gets frustrating at times. Another aspect of why it is confusing is because it's a narrative that doesn't come to us in a clean, simple way. It's a narrative that comes from a variety of viewpoints. In the case of the Saga of the People of Laxardal, I believe that the assumption is that it was passed down by oral tradition and then compiled from a variety of sources. Likewise with Wuthering Heights, you have like multiple different narrators taking charge at different points in the story, and drawing on the other narrators when they're telling their versions and tales. So there is no simple, straightforward, free and direct discourse style of just handling the whole story, and it will be in one place and then it will be like, oh, meanwhile, over with Thorkel's family, this stuff was happening. So it does jump around a lot, and it just comes at the same kind of themes from very different angles sometimes, and the same events from different perspectives, so it can be disorientating from that perspective. And then the final aspect is a kind of like a plot-based confusion, in that when you come at these books, you are sold that you are going to read this amazing romance, but actually what you are getting is a very long and complex tale of hatred and revenge, motivated by love in the first instance, but there is nothing very romantic about this saga, and there is nothing very romantic about Wuthering Heights. So basically it's like the kind of level of revenge and resentment and political feud, coupled with personal strife as you get between like the Montagues and the Capulets, but there isn't even like somebody innocent and happy that you can latch onto and hope for the best for, because there are good characters in this. People like Kjartan. I think Kjartan is a pretty good character. He seems like an upstanding all-round guy, and so does his brother Bolly, even though he does foster brother, even though he does murder the guy who has been his best friend. He generally seems to be fairly upstanding, but there's no one in this that you are really like willing to do well to the very end. There's like briefly, I was just really getting behind Kjartan, and I think his wife is called Hrefna, but that just doesn't last long enough to give you the sense to like carry you through in terms of having somebody to root for. There is like a fascinating villainous character who has characteristics of, pride and kind of manipulation and control, which in this is Gudrun, who I think is just an absolutely fascinating character. But yeah, it's confusing, it's complex, and I feel like you would have to read this 4 times through to actually gain some kind of understanding of all of the complex layers, and have to honestly question as to whether it is worth it. I really enjoyed this. I would recommend it to somebody who is looking for a saga to read. I think of the sagas that I've read, it may well be my favourite, or either this or Gunnlaug Wormtongue, but I kind of felt like there was more richness in this than in Gunnlaug Wormtongue. Yeah, difficult decisions, but I think I would probably recommend this for somebody looking for a saga to read. But I would give them the kind of the caveat of it's not just a casual read, depending on who you are. I mean, some people can just like rattle a book like this off easily, and if you don't care, if you're not bothered like who all the characters are, and you're not trying to make any kind of like thoughts and theories on the world, you could probably read it pretty quickly and just deal with the mild sense of confusion all the way through. Yeah, so it was very interesting. It was a stimulating reading experience, and yeah, I'm sorry that it took me so long. Just with regards to, I think a couple of people have said, am I supposed to believe that, I think Elena said this, am I supposed to believe that Gudrun loved Kjartan? For me, that was never in doubt. It was really, really obvious that was like the main loving relationship for a long time before they were even old enough to consider love and marriage, was Kjartan and Gudrun, and then Bolly was always the outsider who always liked Gudrun but didn't get the opportunity. So when Kjartan was away, it kind of made sense that he would push Gudrun into marrying him, because there was always that kind of like desire and that the sense of him being the one that couldn't get a look in kind of thing. So that made sense to me, and it made sense to me the idea that when she looked back on events, there's this kind of cryptic line, though I treated him worst, I loved him best. And the introduction to my copy definitely suggests that she's talking about Kjartan. I would say, given that she's talking to her son by Bolly, I would say it's equally possible that she's talking about Bolly. And I think there's also a theory in the introduction of this that the main story of the saga is about religion. So you could also say maybe she's talking about maybe more of like a relationship with God, that she treated God the worst because she killed everyone who supported him, essentially. So yeah, fascinating, interesting, but not easy reading. So for the second half of Saga Long, we're going freestyle, and everyone is picking a saga to read. I am reading the Volsunga saga. It's got dragons, it's got magical rings, I think it's got people eating other people's hearts as far as I can remember. But I'm not going to try and read half of it by Saturday because I've not got that much time. So on Saturday I will try to make a short video just on the first couple of chapters, and then I'll aim to finish it by the weekend after that. I would say that I am working both these weekends again, so again, probably not going to happen very easily or well. But thank you very much for joining in. Let me know, do you think that the Saga of the People of Laxardal is anything like the Wuthering Heights? And if not, what would you most strongly compare it to? And if you're going to be reading the Volsunga saga, let me know. Bo has read it. He also found it like a similar general saga reading experience of not being like a straight through read, but you know, didn't say don't read it, so I'm seeing that as a positive. Yeah, and I hope that maybe one or two of you will get the opportunity to read the Volsunga saga. It is available for free online at Gutenberg, and it's also available on Serial Reader. Okay, take care, have a nice day, bye.